Alright guys, good morning. How you doing? So look, what this video is about, it's not so much as a cooking video. This really isn't a cooking video. I'm just going to bring you along with me. But what this is really about is how, now that I'm kind of, transitioning from being really lean the way I was during the summer, when I told you I started dieting way back at the beginning of April. And I started dieting about 235, 233, something like that. Came down all the way down to 206. And now I'm transitioning out of it. Actually, I've been transitioning out of it now for the last, for probably about the last month. And what I mean by transition out of it, I went from basically where I went with my diet when I was trying to drop all that weight and trying to get lean and everything like that. Now I'm going to kind of explain to you how my diet's going to change a little bit as I transition from that part of the diet being, high protein, kind of medium fats, low carb, and on some days even low fats, but my proteins were always high, to where I'm going to be at, or where I am at now. And basically my diet isn't going to change a whole heck of a lot. My calories will increase, so which means I am going to, when I start adding my foods back in, I'll drop most of the fish. I was eating fish probably about 2 or 3 times a week, and it was all lean meats that I was eating during that time. And when I talk about lean meats, I'm talking about, lean red meat, pork tenderloin, turkey, ground turkey, fish, things of that sort. And so what I'm doing now is, now I want to put some weight back on and try and get ready for this show coming up in May, which I'm going to have to, put on a little bit more size. But my diet's going to stay lean while I do it. And but how I'm going to do this now is that my foods are going to change. My calories are going to change. So what I'll do is I will go ahead and kind of just, the size of that mushroom, take out most of the fish. I will have fish if I, once in a while, not all the time, but my main protein consumption now, as far as meats go, are going to be things like, chicken thighs, and of course I'll still keep in breasts, but I try to eat red meat about once a day. And that being said, that's going to help me with keep my protein up. That's going to help keep my calorie consumption up, and the whole 9 yards, and and just add it into the overall package. Now, as far as my carbs go, my carbs are going to be, they're going to increase. I think probably before I was taking in, on some days, maybe 200 grams, 150 grams of carbs on most days, with most of those carbs being taken in right before I train. My cardio was up. I was doing probably about, actually not even probably, I was doing up to 45 minutes of cardio a day, which isn't a whole lot, which if you think about when you're getting ready for a show, and I wasn't getting ready for a show. My goal was to try and get lean and take off a lot of the excess fat that I had up until, or prior to that, me starting to diet. And so my carbs, I really took in not that many carbs, but again, I was getting my calories in the way of protein and stuff, and my fats were fairly high. They weren't too bad. But again, I got down to 206, and I was a hard 206. And my competing weight usually, well, let's just say I was probably within 8 pounds of where I would normally compete at. If I wanted to jump on show, the reason why I didn't is because I needed some time. It was almost 10 years since I've competed, and I wasn't ready to do that. But what I'm telling you guys too is also for people who are, who get on low carbohydrate diets, who can't figure out how to make that transition from being on a low carbohydrate diet or keto. Keto's good for most people, or for some people, but you got everybody and their mother doing it, and they think it's for everybody, and it really isn't. It really just, it's not. And you got different different diets for different people. You know, not everybody's going to be able to do a keto diet, and nor do I recommend it either. You have, you know, you got to do the diet that's going to be for your body type. For my body type, I dropped down low, and I dropped my carbohydrates down low, but I also dropped my fats down low. But, you know, and thing is, I can do that. I know how to do that. I know how to adjust things, and I don't recommend that for a lot of people. If you're going to do that, you know, it should be just a little bit at a time. Maybe for a few days you want to make that adjustment, then go right back in and start adding your fats back in. And then the other thing that I was doing too, I was kind of carb cycling, or I'd have a cheat day once a week, or you can carb cycle. Okay, but for what I was doing, I was having my cheat day once a week, and it was generally on Saturday, because that was the best time for me to do it for my time schedule. A lot of people can do it on a Sunday, and the reason why I don't like to do it on a Saturday, the reason why I don't like to do it on a Sunday is because when I have to go to work the next day, it kind of messes with my gastrointestinal tract a little bit, having all that food in there, and you know, my clients really didn't appreciate it sometimes. You know what I mean? So getting back to how I'm making this transition now. Now my diet, my proteins really aren't going to change much. So I'm taking the fishes out. I'm taking out the lean meat. I'm adding in more fatty meats. I'm going to be adding in a lot more red meat. Now a lot of people are going to, you know, kind of gasp at this, but I usually consume anywhere from 1 to 2 pounds of red meat a day. And so, you know, all this myth, and you guys need to really study on this. Don't just go by hearsay and what you hear in the news, and you know what the latest study is. I mean, you really gotta figure it out, and you really got to do your own research on how red meat affects you. Now, I don't do this every day. I do it most days. My overall meat consumption per day, if you add in the red meat, if you add in the chicken, if you add in, let's say if I have if I add in pork tenderloin or something like that, you know, my overall meat consumption probably per day adds up to maybe about 3 pounds of protein in that sense, and that doesn't include what I take in through my supplementation, my protein drinks and stuff like that. And I will. Now, what I'm doing here, my breakfast really hasn't changed much. The only thing that's changed in my breakfast is that I went from having, you know, 1 whole egg with my egg whites, and I normally have usually about 8 or 9 egg whites along with that whole egg to just kind of balance it out and make the consistency of my food a little bit nicer, a little bit better, and to add in the fats as well. Now, what I'll be doing now is I add in, I'll be adding in 4 eggs. And so I'll be start adding in a lot more fats. And believe it or not, by the time this day is done, I would add in, my calories will be pretty much double what they were when I was trying to come down. My goal is not to get above 215 or 220. I know that's a big range, but I'm pretty carb sensitive. So if I have carbs, stuff like that, I gotta watch it. But like I said, right now I do. Now let's get back to carbs. My carbs this time of the year, okay, I will add in, I was still eating oatmeal in the morning when I was dieting. What I'll do though, but I was only having about a half cup. Now I'll bump that up to about a cup and a half. Or I'll have some whole grain toast or something like that to add in, and maybe a fruit. But my overall carbohydrate count will go way up, and it'll be in the form of rice. And I might have up to 2, 4, 6. I might have up to 6 cups, 8 cups of rice per day, along with that. to bump up my carbohydrates, and it gets me going when I want to train. And it helps me put on that lean mass as well, because carbohydrates work synergistically with protein, and you've got to have that along with it. Now, I'm not constantly eating. I mean, I'm probably eating maybe 5-6 times a day right now, and that's pretty consistent. I'm pretty consistent with my diet. There isn't really too much that I don't go off, that I don't miss, that I don't miss my timing, because now I have the time, and because all my work is done, I should say the majority of my work is done at home, so it leaves me time to eat and train and get into shape the way I want, and make these little videos for you guys to understand what I do and stuff like that. So what I got here is I've got my mushrooms. I chopped up some mushrooms. Got my spinach, added in some salt, added some garlic powder. Now I'm going to go ahead and I just added in 4 whole eggs. And now what I'm going to do, I'm going to go ahead and add in 1.5 cups of egg whites. There's 1 cup. There's the other 1/2 cup. So I've got right around 6, 12, 18, 20. I'll have right around, by the time it's all said and done with my breakfast this morning, I'll have right around 50 grams of protein in it, and my carbohydrates will be high. And what I'm going to be doing after I'm done with this, after I get done making this, I will be making some oatmeal. Some mornings I just don't feel like making it, and I don't feel like wanting it, and so I'll have toast. And it doesn't make any difference what kind of toast at this point right now. I'm not really trying to get that lean anymore, but although I am staying lean, and the reason why I want to stay lean around this time is because when I go to diet, and I will start dieting again for the show in about 3 months, I just don't want to fucking kill myself to do it. And I see a lot of guys that they get up right around 30-40 pounds in the off season, not realizing that you can actually put more muscle on when you stay leaner than you do when you get that heavy. And those days, in my opinion, those days of getting bulking up like that should be gone. If you're going to compete, you should be competing within, you should stay within 15 pounds, 20 on the outside. I mean, just really 20 on the outset. And once you start getting above 20, you got to cut back down of your off-season weight, because then it really starts to become a struggle, especially if you're an older bodybuilder. Everything changed and stuff like that. And I'm not even taking into consideration the supplements that go into training and getting ready for a show. Now, back to the people, the general clientele. This is something you guys can do too. When you guys come off of a keto diet, or you guys come off of a low carbohydrate diet, and you start introducing carbohydrates back into your diet, you want to do it slowly. And I think I mentioned this in the last video. If you have a certain calorie range that you're supposed to be adhering to, you can raise your calories up. Let's say if you raise your calories up an extra 500 calories a week, you can start slowly adding in carbohydrates with that. So let's say if you're at, say if you're at 1,500 calories, and you add in 2,000 calories, and let's say the other, say 300 calories of that is going to be carbohydrates. That's fine, because you're going to need that, because your body's going to be kind of at a stagnant state to where your metabolism just isn't going to work as fast as it used to, because you've been dieting. So when you start adding in those carbohydrates again, what happens is that fire starts burning again. And you notice when you start eating again, you start, it's going to sound weird, you start sweating, and that's your metabolism kicking up. And that's a good thing, because that means your body is starting to burn muscle, or starting to burn more fat more efficiently than you would than it would if you were in a low state, low calorie, low carbohydrate, low fat diet. And that's actually a good thing for things like that to happen, because then you start revving up your metabolism back up again, and then all of a sudden you start becoming a fat burning machine again. So that's about it. That's how I do it in a nutshell. If you guys have any questions, hit me up. Love to hear from you. Please subscribe. Take care, guys.